No. You're talking about character stuff. Oh, God, that's right. I have to not maximize these things. I keep forgetting it can't be maximized over top of us. Let me make sure... Is this the one?
Also, you sound fine.
I sound fine. Great. That's the one where I've got the... But hello, everybody! Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. I sound fine this week. We were just discussing the upcoming game. I don't have a title for it yet, but I'll probably come up with one this upcoming week. We'll talk about the discussions of it. I've been putting some work into the background and stuff, but if you missed last week, the unfortunate thing is sound was bad. I don't know how bad it was on stream. It could have been really bad on stream too, but like things broke down.
If it was bad
yeah.
If it was bad on the VOD, it was bad on the stream.
This show always gets more stuff on YouTube than it ever does on stream, I think. Well, varies on days.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll just review what we talked about last week. If you're watching this in the VODs or want to check it out there, I will tell you check out the YouTube VODs probably up on Monday. I'll put the links to stuff from last week there too. And just have them as like these were last week's topics, kind of in a separate area so you know about them. And then we'll talk about our topics for this week. Because I don't want to retread old news at this point in time or stuff that we talked about already. It's difficult.
Say, thankfully, it was a lot of sidetracking, so the docket itself wasn't very long, thankfully.
Yeah. Fortunately, the docket wasn't long, and I mean, I feel bad that our topic is kind of like a dead topic, but it wasn't like a critical topic. We talked about like non-replayable board games, which was a very interesting one, and that's why I don't know if there's something to salvage from your side of the conversation, maybe one day, but maybe like a supercut of Worm's words.
Download it. Yeah, download it, save it, and that's the thing. You can be heard. You just sound like garbage.
Yeah. So like if you have it up high enough, I like split between my volume. It's bad. Anyway, we went over the Vampire the Masquerade Humble Bundle by Renegade Studios, the new print of the Pokemon Van Gogh Pikachu cards that will be
basically if you buy enough, you get them. Get them on. Matthew Lillard making Betrayal and House of the Hill adventures, so an actor making some adventures, which was kind of neat. Did we talk? And then we had the stuff from Monster Encyclopedia. We kind of talked about that one, but it's an upcoming one, so I think we talked about revisiting it, and we talked about stuff from Traveler. Yeah, I did bring up, there was some stuff that
had been released.
Yeah, basically just some nice little things. I don't think it was anything like that. Though. Just some extra races and some extra ships, basically, is all they released. So, this week is a lot of interesting topics. I'm going to say that to begin with. Do I have a better link to that? There was a link on the one news sites to this, and the announcement was given by Momo. Sent me a tweet announcement. Gathering. It's on pre-order. I'll do the Polygon article. That's probably pretty good. So that is from a couple days ago. So they had their Twitch stream on stuff where they actually showed off a bunch of their stuff for the Fallout Magic the Gathering crossover. Things like the dog meat card and stuff like that. It sounds like it's going to be Commander decks, was it? Let me just make sure I'm getting Commander.
Yeah.
Showing up as part of 4 new Commanders decks.
So they're basically doing the same thing that they've done with Warhammer 40k and Doctor Who. And as much as I both hate and like to admit it, honestly, I like the idea of the Commander decks more than I like the set for Lord of the Rings. This is a very interesting way of having balanced stuff. That's the thing is, they're building 4 relatively balanced decks in and of themselves, which helps for balancing out the cards in the long term for the entire game. So I feel like that's why the Commander decks are probably the best idea for doing this. Prices aren't the best, but it's something, you know? And if you really want cards, you can get an edition. So, we have some previews of some cards, some information on it. we know of 4 the 4 decks. We know some basic information on them. So if you want to look it up, there's.
I love that one of the cards is over encumbered. I'm like, oh gosh, that is so Fallout.
It really is. You know, it is very much so a Fallout thing for over encumbered. Man. See, that's clever. That's clever, storytelling there. And I think that's where, this is where it tells a story best, I think, with clever storytelling in both the cards. So I am happy with something like that.
And they have neat land cards, too. Those are some nice land cards, actually.
Yeah, I do like the style they're showing off. Honestly speaking, the special, framed cards that are, little, it's in your Pip-Boy, those are pretty neat, too. They
are.
I think...
some cartoony ones, which are the Vault Boy.
Yeah. See, both those are, honestly... I think they're capturing it with the stylized cards for the special cards, and, they're doing a pretty good job, and I haven't tried to balance out, card stuff in a while, but, it looks interesting, and honestly, something they're bringing back some energy for, Dr. Madison Lee. And I liked energy from, Kaladesh. It was an interesting concept. This is a nice place to bring it back. So, Fallout stuff, there are probably other articles out there. I think the Polygon one's fine for getting you an idea of what they've shown off now. It's actually coming out more... that's the thing is, it's going to retail in March 8th. That's not that long from now. Gotta be honest. So, yeah, we're learning about it now. We're actually seeing something of it. I didn't even realize it was that close. I just remember they had announced it back earlier in the year. Because they haven't... I guess they've got so much stuff. Yeah, they announced
it at Gen Con.
Yeah. I think it's this problem that is with Magic and products, is they've got so many products coming out so often, it's hard to have that long-term anticipation or being knowing what the schedule is, because there's always just the new thing coming out a lot. That's a different discussion anyway. But we have another discussion based around Magic that I wanted to give rather than just talk about this one, because there is an interesting thing they've announced. And it's an interesting direction for Magic. I don't know if it's a good one, but it's one that's unfortunately needed. So, that was the Fallout link. That was the Fallout link. Sorry. The wrong one. This is the one I wanted to do. Because that wasn't much of
that other one as well.
Yeah. That was the first... Oh, that was their page. I forgot I'd found their page of it, too. I was just looking at the post. Play boosters. So, a couple of years ago, Magic did something that was... Honestly, I felt was best more for greed more than anything. But for the longest time, they made boosters that were draft boosters. I never drafted, but I liked the format of draft boosters because they were pretty simple to understand. What was in a draft booster? It was a number of commons, a number of uncommons, and a rare or mythic rare. And then a throwaway thing, which is like a token or something like that, and usually a land, too. That's the standardized that they've been for a long time now, but generally speaking, it's something kind of similar, was what they've been in for a lot of years. The original draft booster was Mirage. The basic format that they've been in had been since then. And Mirage, if you're not aware, is very early on. We're talking decades ago now that this format has worked. It was also fine for collecting. Set boosters were the more expensive collector's stuff that they'd have all their weird treatments in randomly and all this other kind of stuff and things like that, and they were never meant to be played, and you get maybe a couple of rares and all this stuff about them. And Yes. Problem has become that because drafting is good for standard, standard is good for the health of the game, because Magic's a game. Set boosters are good for collectors and good for collecting. That's what became. But set boosters are terrible for draft because you can't play the game, and they don't encourage the health of the game. What's happening now, we find out, is set boosters are outselling draft boosters. Granted, standard isn't being played as much. We're getting a lot more of the commander type of play, and, things like that. And people more just want to collect the cards, I guess, at this point in time, especially with the focus on, whales that they've been doing a lot of, where people spending more.
They really are focusing on, look at all these special shiny versions of the cards we have, buy these. So it's kind of, I think, triggering collectors to be like, I want to get them all. I want to get all these cool things. And so people are buying probably those because they're more likely to get, they only have 2 epics or whatever, or 5 epics in a set. So it's you have to, so it's draft boosters, you'll get a lot of copies. No.
It's worse than that. I can tell you, the numbers have always been in such a way that you have to buy the mythics. The rares usually can come in, but mythics are 1 in every 6 packs. So, and usually they do 10 to 20 in a set of mythics.
Hey.
It is hard to collect the mythics without buying them individually. You would have to buy box after box to get all of them by buying them from draft. Set gives you a better chance of this, and I think that's another thing is, when you want all those, and maybe you think the gambling, in a way, of buying set boosters is a lot cheaper than, because mythics can tend to be expensive too, rather than spending, at the time of the set, maybe $100 and getting the free, the 2 mythics that I need for my collection. Maybe I'll buy a set box for a little bit more than that, and also come out with a lot of other cards, and maybe some extra ones, fill in the rest of my set, sell off some other things, That becomes this mentality that it kind of supports. And I understand it's the invention of mythics also allowed this kind of path to go down. So it's a couple of steps we're taking. But the people that develop Magic aren't idiots. They're we shot ourselves in the foot. Because if draft dies, if draft boosters die, which is the direction things are going, we don't have playable standard very well. Standard dies. We don't have good health for the game.
So the problem is that, you're more likely to get good cards in draft decks, but less likely to get, the really good cards. So you can get, some good cards, but I know there's a draft type of play where you open packs and you play with what you get.
Yes.
So those would also suffer.
There's 2 types of ways of drafting Magic. But there's you get a bunch of packs and you make some stuff, and that works pretty well. Or there's the actual draft where you pull one out and pass it around and kind of stuff like that. It's constructed or draft play. And draft boosters are balanced in such a way that works for both of those plays, Set boosters aren't balanced for that. And so they've come up with play boosters. And I agree because I learned about them earlier this week, and I saw earlier today the Tolarian Academy did a video on it, and he was talking about it, and I'm he brought up some interesting points that I didn't even think about when I was thinking about this topic, because I had started earlier this week, this is a stopgap method. Because, again, I knew, hearing that draft boosters were having problems, that was that kind of sucks, They want to still be able to have them. But the thing is, a play booster replaces both of these. So in a way, draft boosters still have died. Set boosters have died too. But basically these are set boosters comboed with... They've changed the way they work and are formatted in a way that makes them good for draft. And the problem comes down to, rather than knowing in a draft booster that I get, like, 10 commons, 3 uncommons, a rare, a land, and a throwaway card. These are, here's some spreadsheets. Enjoy learning what you can possibly get in these things. Because that was set boosters, and it's still going to be in play boosters. Enjoy our new spreadsheets.
Got it. So they're kind of like not as great. So they're kind of like somewhat more drafty, but they're also going to be a lot more random.
It's the thing that there are slots in the packs. Here it is. In this thing here, there's 1 to 6 commons. One card that is either a list card, which is this like list of cards that are like old reprints that they're doing, that so like they can have these more expensive reprints, but in small numbers so they don't affect the secondary market, and that's why they're not reprinting them. Because that's not their reason, but that's really the reason. Or a common. Like 3 uncommons, a rare or mythic, a basic land, a non-foil wild card, a foil wild card, and then add token helper art card. And the wild card could be anything. Like, the foil cards were always a wild card, and were fine to have in there. But now they've got also the non-foilable ones, which I'm guessing the non-foil wild cards could also be like the special art treatments and stuff like that. There's percentages in these things. Like...
Yeah. Because, the set... So, draft boosters have 10 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare. Set boosters have 3 to 6 commons, 3 to 6 uncommons, and 1 to 4 rares and or mythic.
Yeah.
So, you're kind of I see how it's kind of getting in between, where it's like 6 commons, so... Less commons. Same number of uncommons. And then...
The mythic rare, the mythic or rare, which...
Oh, and then you have the common list, is number 7, and the mythic rare, and then...
And you can see there's percentages on there for everything, and then they've got the wild card slot, the non-traditional wild card slot, and
Yes, the wild card could be anything, a common, uncommon, mythic, rare.
And then the non-playable slot is either a token, played, or add card, 65% of the time, or an art card or art card with a signature. So the special art cards are technically the non-playable slot. You're not supposed to play with them when you draft. So that's what you're supposed to... That's what we're telling us now, is yes, you can get those, and you could play with them when you construct a deck later on, because there's just another version of the card. But when you're drafting, you're not supposed to use the art card.
Foil wild card, which again could be any rarity, just foil.
Yeah. It's going to be like set booster price, so draft is going to become more expensive now. And they haven't told us how much more expensive it has going to become at game stores and stuff. Because they do have standard prices for these things.
Yeah.
But we know it's going to be more expensive. It is a measure that is not something that I understand the measure is needed. That's the problem with it, is that this is something that I'm like, yes, you've shot yourself in the foot. It's good to put a Band-Aid on it. Maybe we should have operated or not shot ourselves in the foot.
Huh. Yeah, I mean... Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like beyond just selling the cards outright, which obviously they will never do because the gambling makes them way more money.
Again,
that would fix everything. Here's a list of cards. You can buy the ones you want.
You can do that on the secondary market. Yeah, that is the secondary market. I know you can.
I know what the secondary market is, but part of me is also just like, yeah, but the secondary, they make like probably a lot more from the primary market than they do from, because like the secondary market, if you think about it, you upsell these things by buying a whole lot of other things, which makes it like they're still getting the money.
Well, this is catch-22, and it's a very interesting catch-22. They don't get any money from the secondary market. but they use the secondary market. They can watch what cards are very expensive, and then put them in special print reprints. They can put them in, this, Secret Lair, this Commander deck happens to have these reprints. This premium product that we're selling happens to have one of these reprints that are very expensive.
That's $200.
That's expensive on the secondary market, and it's so expensive, but you can buy it and get it, and you can get all this other stuff with it too, and then it's technically worth your value, but it also then doesn't really drop the secondary market price, and that stays high, but they've taken advantage of it, and that's what they've been doing the last couple of years. Actually, probably the last decade, they've been kind of moving into this. 5 years, really, they've been moving into this, taking advantage of the secondary market as a telling ground for where things are.
I wonder how profitable just making a game like this and just selling the cards outright would be.
Games do that, actually. There are games that just sell the entire sets for stuff.
Huh.
It's not a trading card game, which is the thing. They're just a collectible card game. And collectible card games do work, but Fantasy Flight does a bunch of these. So I would look into how, they've done Lord of the Rings, and they had, a Arkham Horror collectible card games. And a few others, I think, maybe, a Star Wars one. They seem to do okay. I do not think they are as profitable as a trading card game, because a trading card game has...
The whole idea is the artificial rarity, which creates a lot of inflation on the cards themselves, which creates a lot of interest in buying, and that's why they become so profitable. This is why they're never going to stop while they continue making money.
It's the thing that, if we removed the game from Magic boosters are basically just gambling.
Yeah.
They are to a degree, too. But because you have things like draft experiences or construct and play, where I can pick up 5 booster packs, my buddy can pack up 5 booster packs, we can make decks out of those 5 booster packs. Granted, we probably have to have some lands we brought with us, so that we can build decks. But that's a fun experience! I don't like draft as much, but I love constructed, where I, can take 5 packs or something like that, and build an interesting deck and experiment with a bunch of packs. I always enjoyed that. That's what you do at pre-releases all the time. And that was my favorite thing to do for pre-releases, is to go to these, buy a bunch of packs, throw a deck together, and see what I built. Granted, nowhere near me that's actually the reasonable closest does pre-releases anymore, so I can't go.
Yeah. No. I mean, the real thing is the trading card game I was into was Yu-Gi-Oh! But right now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, if you have a good enough deck, you watch whoever goes first wins.
I watched a bunch of... I like to put, a lot of people in the background in Twitch stuff a lot of times. And something that I got into a little while ago is I like watching, Shield Chaos. Because I like having his stuff on in the background. He's a very entertaining background while I'm working kind of guy, for me, personally. But he was talking about he had gone to Comic-Con and brought Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks. He didn't play with them, because he was talking about your very thing. At the beginning of the game, you have to do so many moves, and if you make one mistake, if you're having a friendly game with people that you know, you can be like, they can be like, you can change that mistake, so you can actually play out your deck right. But if you don't know those people, that one mistake you've already lost.
Yeah.
And
Yu-Gi-Oh!
That story impressed upon me the vast difference that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gone with power scaling. That somehow Magic has managed... Granted, there has been power creep in Magic. I'm not going to deny that. But they usually find ways to cut themselves back. Usually it's restrictions, bans, but also they do tend to print stuff that are solutions in their own decks a lot of times. Yeah. Or those sets, So that's... It's something that's been very good for Magic, is the power creep hasn't been as bad as I think. And I don't even know about Pokemon and their power creep and stuff. I remember years ago I heard some talks about it, that it was very different.
Yeah, something I heard about Pokemon is just that it's really just not as fun to play, so you mostly just get it for the collectibles.
Yeah,
so it's all like it's really more about collecting in Pokemon because the actual card game is just not as fun.
Unfortunately,
I've heard that.
I mean, like, it was a fine card game back when I first played it, back when it first came out. But I have no idea.
I remember it being like overly complicated and dumb. When it's like you have to evolve the Pokemon in order in the middle of the game. You have to have it. Yes, it was like way too much, and I'm just all like,
you built decks around things, you know, and I think that was the kind of thing. It was Magic as a game where I could have a deck. I could have my commander deck, which is just one single of each card. But I could also have just a normal legacy deck, or vintage deck, or modern deck, or standard deck, where I actually do have one of every card. Or maybe, like, I have one card, I have, like, a couple cards that I have a couple copies of, and then a lot of one cards in there, and I could still make a functioning deck. I think it's a Pokemon deck requires multiple copies, and you can really kind of, you know, go into that kind of thing of having multiple copies, or a lot more searches and stuff. Different kind of deck.
But I
would
assume.
Yeah.
I would assume with Pokemon, part of the issue too is just that, if I remember correctly, you have to have those like energy cards to do any attacks, and so you probably get a lot of bloat from that.
It's the same. It's the same as lands in Magic. It comes down to.
Hold on. I'm actually curious how those work, because like in lands you can put them down and they're out of your deck in hand, and they stay forever.
Yes, in Pokemon, you attach them to your Pokemon. So one per turn, you can put down attached to a Pokemon. I remember that much.
You're right.
And that powers them up.
You don't have to... Yeah, but if that Pokemon dies, you also lose the card, so you need more of them.
Yes,
right?
So you usually have a kind of a certain amount, similar to lands in Magic. But usually then you might also have ways of moving energy around, or getting energy back, or stuff like that. That was traditionally the old way of doing it. They've added a lot since then, so the meta could have changed completely on how things work. And
I honestly don't know either. I know there's certain aspects of that which are still the same, but it's also just like I just heard this is not as fun.
It might not be, honestly. I know some people play them, but know, Yu-Gi-Oh gets played, Pokemon gets played.
But that's the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh though is just like it's actually kind of fun to play because sometimes you can have a really good deck, but you can still get unlucky. But also, like, and so there's, like, still aspects of it that are fun. And also, if you just do older deck things, like, if you do, like, you know, different generations, like, you exclude all of some of the newer stuff, it's actually a lot better.
It's Commander, Modern, Vintage, Legacy, all the different formats in Magic are kind of the same. Each of those adds a different layer of things. But Magic's changing for the... It's changing!
Yep.
That's what I gotta say about it. You know? But it meant, you know... It made sense. You know? They can't abandon draft boosters. They need that for their balance and stuff. And combining them into these new play boosters with set boosters at least makes it that the game is theoretically balanced now. We're not going to know until Murder at Karlov Manor whether or not, because that's the first time we're seeing these, whether or not this is going to be successful at least for now, balancing things a little bit.
I'm just, like, skimming at the rules right now. I'm like, you know, this actually seems very different than I remember playing it. It's possible that when I was a kid, I was just playing it completely wrong. Because that's the thing. I haven't played this since I was probably, like, 10.
So,
let's move on.
Let's move on. We can talk about something that has been, just released. I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit because our good friend Yosef is planning on using it, and it is the Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse book is out, technically. Yeah. So
he can use that now.
He can use that now.
I know he was saying he was thinking of waiting for it, but then decided not to. But now he can.
Well, I think it's the thing is he hoped that it would be more than it is, and I haven't seen it yet, but all evidence points to it's going to be at very... It might still be better, but very Spelljammer. Spelljammer was bad.
Yeah.
I think that's what I worry about, too, is if I break it down. He'll be getting it. So we can talk to Joe about it. Maybe I can see if Joe would want to come on a week and talk to us about how it worked and if they've managed to bring out Planescape in a good way. Like, I can tell you, I really liked the second Ravenloft book. It wasn't perfect, but I thought it did a good job of introducing other places in Ravenloft in an interesting way that was pretty good to update it to 5th edition. Was it the best? No. Was it pretty decent? I thought so. Spelljammer was awful. I felt like it didn't capture the essence of the game at all. The game I remember, the version of it I remember, because Spelljammer was very different feeling, and I think they wanted to make it just more 5th edition, which they did with it, and that's not... It's supposed to be different, you know? Just like Ravenloft is technically supposed to be a little bit more horror, which they actually looked into. They didn't go into that weird kind of sci-fantasy that is space sci-fantasy that was Spelljammer very well.
Yeah.
Oops, all magic. Oops, all stuff.
Yeah.
The weirdness was what made it really fun.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. You know, I want to say it was out now. Maybe we'll have Joe talk about it sometime.
I mean, they do offer a map of sigils, so that might be nice.
Yeah. So, we have 2 things from Paizo. Let's do the nice one first, kind of like I did with the magic stuff. Do the nice one is we have something that's both not and is up my alley. Pathfinder Lore Masters Trivia
There
game.
is. I actually going back to Planescape. One thing I want to say that is, I was just kind of finishing reading the thing, and I found at the bottom, they do have, 50 monsters, which might be nice.
I mean, can't they just give us a Bestiary 2, or Monster Manual 2, that has all these monsters together in one place, so you don't have to own 27 books? Oh, wait!
I mean, I have to do that with Lolo's Guide.
Kinda.
And what was the other one? Mordekainen's
Tome of Foes.
Tome of Foes, yeah. So, but also, I think a big thing is just that, I honestly think they just need to, especially when they do D&D 1, update their monster creation rules so you can kind of just actually make your own without so much extra effort.
Yes, I agree. Simple monster... I think that's the one thing that I have to say about a bunch of older editions. Easier monster creation rules! What happened to that? When did we lose those? Was that something we couldn't keep between editions? Apparently not!
Yeah.
But anyway, Lore Masters. So on iOS and Google Play, so it is a phone-based thing, I guess. You can
this is the trivia game, right?
It's a trivia game, yeah. Does it cost anything, or could I just install this? Let me look on my phone. I can see Pathfinder. That's Pathfinder.
Does seem to be free. What is it?
Not Lyre Masters, Lore Masters. Oh God, I can't type
Flex data.
I'm gonna install it. Why not? I might try playing this. Blah 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 blah.
Don't see anything. Normally, it does say this. Because I'm just looking at the details on the app page. Well, it's free, but normally it will also say contains in-app purchases, and I don't see that, which is weird. Because I thought there were going to be expansion packs, but maybe they're not starting with any.
Yeah. Well, it's here. It says it. So far, it's fun, has loads of potential, but I want to do more things and rewards with for them. it's essentially sets of flashcards with progression rewarded with cosmetics. Pretty fun if bare bones. They've got the right idea and it's clean interface. I bought 2 of the add-ons and it's enjoyable, educational. Can't see what it is. So I guess you can buy add-ons maybe for more stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's coming or if that's already a thing. You could probably find that out.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to take a look at it. But, it's a trivia game. It's Pathfinder. It's on your phone. You can check it out if you want to. It's an interesting idea.
Surprise, because normally it will definitely say has in-app purchase.
Yes. I might try checking it out a little bit more and say some things if I have a chance.
Oh, in-app purchases. There are 3. So yeah, they're little expansion packs.
Yeah, so I assume it's like more questions and stuff.
Yep.
If you're a lore buff like me and want to try it out, go ahead, And it's got a bunch of stuff there. So, yes.
Maybe I should use this to quiz myself to get better, because I'm always asking so what does this do? How does this work again?
The rules are very 2nd edition, though, that they're kind of showing off.
Oh, that's fair. I really want to play 2nd edition Pathfinder. It looks way better than 5th edition.
It is a much more advanced system. It does have a few issues, but I feel like their 2nd printing revision is going to fix a lot of that. Because, again, the revision, I don't think they would have done it if it wasn't for, honestly, Wizards. It leads back to separating from the OGL stuff, back in the now, completely, is requiring them to basically do a revision, and they're fixing and streamlining a few things at the same time, but they're like, I guess since we're getting rid of all this stuff, we might as well, do basically a
2.1e.
It's basically 2.1. I feel like that's where it is. It's a 2.1. So it's it's a very minor update. It's no D&D 1, which is a 5.5. Or they're trying to make it a 5.5, but anyway, complaints.
Yeah. Honestly, I really do, because they're the first Pathfinder 2e, the first time that they actually made kobolds good. 5e didn't make them good. Pathfinder 1e didn't make them good. They've never been good.
Pathfinder 1e, they were very, very, very 3.0, 3.5 still. Which was unfortunate. They didn't really deserve the kick in the pants that they got. And yes, I feel like the Ancestry system of 2nd edition allows for these crazy things a lot more. Basically, because they simplified it so much for your Ancestry that's still a very important part of your character decision, but what you get from it is unique, but simple, means I can play all the crazy shit I want, and it doesn't really change as much, It allows for stuff that's just unusual a lot more. Anyway, the other thing that I want to talk about is something that, honestly, won't affect most of us, but it might. Paizo's changing its prices.
Oh, okay.
Not on everything, though. On physical stuff.
Oh, okay.
And that's the thing, is they're talking about sustainability and stuff like that.
That's actually very
costs
reasonable.
And stuff. Yeah. So
yeah, no, see, here's the thing, I understand, D&D was saying they're doing it. The problem is they don't offer digital versions.
Yes. And they're just like, hey, our PDF products, we don't plan to change the PDF price changes beyond what we announced last year. We talked about this, I think, last year at some point. I had on the show that they changed their PDF prices by a little bit. They weren't big jumps they were certainly little jumps here and there for pricing. I found them with, it was like, these are fine. Most of them were, large rule books are a little bit more expensive for PDFs and stuff too. They still weren't terrible and still much more cheaper than actual physical books, but you can just download them. Hey, you know what Paizo does differently too? I can actually download the PDF and have it separate from them online.
Yes.
I actually have the PDF. Yes, it's electronic, but I could transfer it to one system, to my phone, to another system, or have copies around that place.
and let your friends look at it.
Yes!
No, I totally get that. It's like, I totally get the increase to physical prices. Inflation's happening. You can't keep everything the same. At least they're being upfront about it. I hate shrinkflation. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Cause, like, that's what... do you know what shrinkflation is?
I've heard the term, but I haven't really had a definition of the term.
Shrinkflation is generally among food, where they basically just put less food into a package.
That's...
Slightly shrink the package over time to make it so you don't realize you're getting less for the same price.
Yep.
And then they release a gigantic version, which is then now the new one.
Mm-hmm.
That's how shrinkflation works. But, it's the same kind of concept where it's all like, you just kind of start putting less into the same... Like, other things can do it where you just put less of something into the same price range, and then you start selling other things which are more. It's very, like, in my opinion, like, just... We all know inflation works. We all know prices increase. It sucks. But just... Stop sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
I don't want a half-empty bag of Doritos.
Yeah. The one thing that they did talk about is for things like their new core line for the revised stuff. They are keeping that all at $60, $59.99 for each book there, for at least the first printing of all these books, because they want to allow the introduction to be very easy for people to get into the pricing and stuff, and that's been the pricing. They want the changeover to be smooth if people are going to do it. These are the major books that people are going to get first. So further printings will probably go up to the price changes, but at very least, for this first printing of these core ones, are going to be they're going to be the old standard.
Yeah, in fact, I really like one of the messages. It's all like, "Thanks for taking time to post about this topic. As a consumer, none of us ever look forward to cost increases. However, you laid out the why in a manner that shows it's not the situation of because we want more money."
There's other things that they're doing, which is important to note, because I didn't know about this. I didn't realize they don't use petroleum-based ink. They use soy-based ink.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see. They're also doing a lot of environmental stuff, which does make things cost more. It sucks, but honestly, the reason not everyone uses environmentally sustainable things is because environmentally unsustainable practices are cheaper.
And the thing is, it's sort of like, again, it's the thing I talk about, like, because I saw years ago, I saw a, what's the word for it? Documentary on the current logging industry in North America, where they're heavily sustainable. They have their forest, and they basically kind of like go through an area and take out the older trees in the one area. And then they move on to another area and do that. And then move on to like another area. And then they go back to the first area. And by the time they get back to the first area, that like the trees that they...
they replanted, yeah.
Yeah, they also replant trees. So not only the trees they've replanted have come in, they didn't take all the trees. They didn't clear cut the place. So some of the medium trees are now the large trees. The, first generation of ones they planted are now the medium trees a while ago. And they kind of like cycle through that. And it's a sustainable thing that, first world logging is relatively sustainable. And yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because we also, like, have the resources to do that kind of thing. It's a lot more difficult to do that, and I understand it's not easy to do that everywhere, but it is something that we keep in mind that paper is a thing we can replace pretty good. We've learned how to do that.
Yeah. Wood and paper is, the whole idea of it is a literal renewable resource. It's not like oil and gas, which are non-renewable. Paper is actually renewable if you take the time to do it right. So it's non-renewable if you kill the planet.
So they did talk about, the possibility of switching to recycled paper, which would be even more sustainable, but that's very expensive. So, like, it's a little too expensive that they didn't want to have us go that far. So just going to, FSC certified paper from, like, places where they're doing sustainable,
those
foresting.
Sustainable forest, yeah.
Where they're not old world forests. They're not going like the places where it's the oldest trees, where they're a lot more natural. They're going into areas that it's their logging zone kind of thing, and it's a lot of stuff they planted themselves. Doesn't mean shit didn't move in, but, you know, the shit will move out of the way if something's going on a lot of the time, at least in these areas. Like, you know. Can't get rid of squirrels or raccoons. They just move in everywhere.
No. Not to get super political, but the real way we're going to fix the environment is for people to realize that they can, if they are willing to make less money, that we can actually do a whole lot more with with what we have.
There's discussions on sustainability that are very deep and unfortunately rarely happen on any level of politics in any party, and unfortunately just is very hard to get into. But that's for a different show in a different place. But good on them for at least having.
I was about to say, I'm happy I work for a company that actually helps the environment to some degree. We literally sell a product to help reduce nitrous oxide emissions from power plants and stuff. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's good. But good on Paizo for, you know, making efforts that at least, like, it's sort of like when Atlas was talking about, you know, doing things, you know, a little bit better. It's the same way. Good on them for having something.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I read it, it's like, okay. I thought it was just kind of, inflation's happening, we're sorry, but we need to be sustainable, which is... But no, it's actually, no, we're just trying to actually be sustainable.
I think
it's probably a little bit inflation. I think it's probably part of it.
It's probably a part of it. It's like we want to maintain this kind of environmental stability. It's a little more expensive, but also, like, you know, things are going up in prices for shipments and stuff too, and all this stuff. So we're making efforts to be better environmental and still providing products within the purview of the expenses that are going on. So, yep.
Wonderful.
Good on them. Alright. Good. What's our deeper discussion topic for today? Oh boy. Have I done... Let me check something to see if I've done one, because, where is my documents? You know,
I have like a spreadsheet with like all the ones
I have two spreadsheets, because the one spreadsheet is unordered, and the other one is ordered.
I could probably order that for you in 2 seconds if you give it to me. I know how to do code.
My ordered one is pretty well ordered. It's technically not a spreadsheet, it's a document where I've got the list of all the topics we've talked about and stuff.
Okay, that's a little bit harder to do a document.
And then I've got in my area where I organize the links and stuff for then uploading to YouTube. That's a separate document. But also on that one, I have a secondary list, which was my original list, which was the basic topics. You know what would be a good topic that I don't think we've talked about at all yet? Oh no, we did we did talk about that. Damn it! I just thought of something and I didn't finally see it in my list. I was gonna say Session Zeros. We talked about Session Zeros a while ago. Yeah. What else is going on right now?
We did. I kind of remember that actually.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Take a drink of ice.
It was a little while ago.
Why don't we talk about our week of gaming, and then I could think of maybe a topic if I could think of one, either from this list or another.
Yeah, we could always expand on something we've talked about before, although you might want to pick something even older that we don't really remember as well. But my week in gaming, I can start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Start.
So I'll start with Baldur's Gate, just because that's, again, what I've been streaming all week. Good. I'm actually having fun. I really have just been clearing out the terrible Deadville. Actually, where did I start? I feel like I don't remember where I ended up. I think I've been doing, basically it's actually been pretty simple. I think I've just been clearing out the cursed town all day, or all week. And I'm finally getting to actual, like, the plot points now of, like, Moonrise Tower as of today. So, yeah, that has been pretty much just killing and looting things as I walk through a town. But, yeah, other than that, Sunday, we did have our first game of the, no, wait, or was that last week?
It was this week, because we're off this week.
Okay, perfect. We'll also be off the... Yeah, you're right. Okay.
And there's a chance we'll be off next week, depending on what's going on. And I don't know if Joe's found anybody, but I don't know if he's talking. Maybe there's some people I can ask that Joe doesn't know or something.
Yeah, we had our first game of the game we actually were talking about earlier, the Planeswalking one, where we're going to be jumping around places. We basically all started off, and then we all kind of converged and found out something weird was going on, and we all were slightly roped into helping in different ways. But in the end, we all got together at a tavern that was covered in ice.
Yes.
And we found, after saving some people who were on the top floor, we explored the basement where there was a portal, to what we found out was the Frostfall? Or Snowfall?
I think it was Frostfall. Frostfell.
Frostfell, thank you. I was like, that's not right. Something I'm misinterpreting something in the name. Yeah, Frostfell. And we were attacked by some ice rats. And then we talked to an ice Melfit who said that the portal went to the Frostfell. That's how we found out. And we noticed the portal close after we pulled the dead body of the dwarf away. There was a dead body in front of the portal, and when we pulled them away,
the portal changed. Well, closed, and then it changed, and then it closed, and then it changed again. But we didn't see that last. Was it just you, or who was that?
It was just me that saw the very last one.
Yeah.
And so we did. And so something's going on here. And so we decided to investigate a little bit. I think we just found out that so basically the dead body had a giant's toe on him, a frost giant's toe, and we kind of suspect that, well, they're making, we actually hadn't gone to question the family members yet.
There's the thing is, I think it's more than just the toe, because the person was carrying the toe down there, so there must be something that he was doing that drawed upon magic, because it sounded like they were using magic for their alcohol. So
they had a compass that didn't point to anything. It was just
So the compass, the toe, and whatever magic they were drawing on there created the initial portal. But it also means that I think they can. It's a place where portals to other places can come to. It's weird. We'll figure it out. There's more to it, you know.
The mystery just started. We had our first fight.
The mystery.
Yep. And so it's fun though. I liked it. Definitely need to. Yeah,
I knew I had to with the team of people we had, so I've taken on a vaguely leadership role. My character's a terrible leader, but he's technically noble and acts like one.
Sometimes that's fun to have your leader be the. I mean, remember Vercel?
Yeah.
She was fun. She was a terrible leader, but she was the leader.
Yes. No, the imp was the leader, I'm sorry to say.
You're kind of right.
The FSC I gave you was the real leader.
He was the real leader until Momo came along.
But
what did they play? Like, Drow?
Some kind of assassin that was like,
I don't remember his race.
Yeah, those there to at least get you on the right track. You were mostly on the right track, but it was to kind of finish that right track, and it worked pretty decently. So I think the game's fun. It'll be interesting to do bi-weekly. I do not know how long we're going. I don't know how much Joe has been planning for his story too. So there's a lot of questions I have, and I do not know if Joe requires more people or not.
So I don't think he does. He is worried about, from what I was able to gather, about like us not having the resources with a smaller party to handle planes. But I think we'll be fine in that sense. Like that 5e is not deadly enough to like require like that level of, unless he's like throwing like, frost giants at us at level 1,
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be not this week, but next, theoretically, that we're playing in. So.
Yeah.
Then I did have people meet a little bit and talk with them about characters. We're continuing to build characters. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot for the new Wednesday game. And we're theoretically starting on the 1st, as long as I can get everything set up for it. I think
writing my backstory.
The most important fact is having characters and having those characters mostly be charactered, and me mostly reading through the stuff is done. I just have to put together, like, 3 assets and some title, like a new name of the game and some stuff like that. And I'm hoping I can have stuff kind of together by next Wednesday, so I'm thinking of maybe just recording some kind of Session to Zero stuff that I can put up. That'll be kind of interesting. But we'll see if I can get on. That's sort of the plan for now. We'll see how it works.
Yep. There are a lot of like RPG things where they just basically they have like their video sessions here is basically just each player basically describing their character.
Yeah, it's.
Like,
I was thinking
put us on the spot like that.
Yeah, my big plan was maybe description, but also kind of like the incident which drives your character, kind of almost role-playing that, because there is this idea of these traits related to the adventure path that kind of draw you into it. And so that's why I thought that would be a very good spot to kind of like start it all, to kind of like, see the emotion of, oh, I found this person murdered, or, oh no, this person's been kidnapped, or something, or stuff like that, are emotional driving moments to sort of get into the character, especially because they are going to be very important emotional moments for the beginning of the game.
Yep.
So yeah. And then, Thursday, I did have, Momo's game, which was pretty interesting. It was very combat-y. Basically, we've made the executive decision to not only pick up these mystical artifacts, which my character's an idiot and knows nothing about it, and it's just like, neat, it's a magic axe. Oh, there's some kind of powerful spirit connected with it. These things that people called gods in the old days. They're just powerful spirits. They've imbued their powers into it. I named mine Ray, because it was apparently a spirit of the moon, and I thought Moon Ray would be really awesome. I thought of that after calling it Ray, the Moon Ray joke. I was originally going to call it... I originally was going to call it something else, but someone was like, hey, that's the name of someone I know, or someone related to me, and I'm like, fine, I'll name it something else, and I'm like, Ray, for Moon Ray. So, but also then we're waking a dragon, we have to, like, undo seals, and, some creatures were trying to stop us, and now this guy who had apparently betrayed someone or something, and I don't really know who he is, but he's a betrayer, apparently. My character, again, doesn't know this, because so much lore and story is lost on him. And me. But I'll ask him a question. Maybe not with the magic axe. I haven't decided that yet, because I don't know what the magic axe does. And we'll undo the thing, and we'll unleash a dragon, so we'll have dragon friend and magic axes, and call him down. That was our adventure. Okay. So, talk about it for a little bit here. I did have this topic that was on the list for a long time, and I guess this is a really great place to talk about it, because it's what we were talking about right at the beginning that made us start a little late. Character building. This is a thing that is actually pretty important to your average character. And what I mean by character building is it's a little bit different than just general character creation. Because anybody can, especially let's take 5e as an example. I can spend, because 5e is pretty quick to do it, 10, 15 minutes, and I can throw together a character. Yeah, pretty easy.
Yeah, 5e I could just make something up real fast. Same.
Honestly, for me, I could probably put it together in 5 minutes if I just wanted to. Like, I could put together, you tell me, you need a character, give me 5 minutes. I could probably throw together a basically statted out rogue or fighter pretty easily. I'd probably play something pretty simple, but yes.
As long as I don't have to worry about items, or buying items. If I just do one of the starting packs, that's actually fine. But if I... That's usually where I get really in the weeds.
Pathfinder 1E, I could probably do the same. I'm pretty good at looking at the average money, and then there are some choices that I might make for equipment, but it'd sort of be like, light armor. Here's the light armor that's great for starting character. Medium armor. I know the medium armor. It's like, I think it's scale mail for medium, studded leather for light. Don't even go to heavy when you're doing a starter character. Shield if you can use one. Long sword, short sword, great sword are the three that I normally default to. If I want to go crits, I'll go axes because of the times multipliers sometimes do it. Certain times, depending on, what my character's proficient in, I might go to some other weapons, but I have my list that I kind of go through. And yeah, the list it's from years of playing the game, and it's very simplified, and yes, but that's again, like, that's me playing Pathfinder for, like, freaking decade with people, and, I know it very well. I could still throw together a melee or non-magic using character pretty quickly. Even with magic, I gotta be honest, I could probably throw it together a lot quicker. Especially pen and paper.
I could do magic. Yeah, I could do magic quickly in 5e, not in Pathfinder.
I know enough spells to basically put together a very loose spell list that I think would work very well in Pathfinder. Maybe 10-15 minutes I could probably put that together again, I think. But again, this is not what character building is. This is character creation. Character building is everything else associated with it. This is two main branches of it. Who is your character? And the other important one, which we're talking about, is where the hell is my character going to end up? Because if you know it's a game that's going to have levels, certainly something like 5e usually pertains less to building levels and lot. But think about, at 3rd level, I get my, my build. What's it going to be? Yeah, asking those questions is actually very important.
In 5e, your character progression or your advancement, as you're like trying to go for, as far as your character goes, is your basically your subclass, and then you've also got your feats. I'd probably say those are the two big things that that you can build a character around.
Yeah, and granted, look, ability scores tends to be a pretty heavy one most of the time. That
Yeah,
but it's also like the optional of having like both ability scores and feats, or sometimes people use, or maybe kind of intersplicing kind of places where you get like more in quotations free feats and stuff like that to encourage them a little bit more. But even standard building where the option of feats to exist, it still kind of comes down to what would I want to take and when would I want to take, what would be helpful to me.
So yeah, there's a little of that of advancement, and then you also got just the story side of things. You also have to where did you come from? Where are you going?
Yeah, and the story of your character doesn't need to be complex, but it needs to still work, I think, is the way that I kind of talk about it. And it comes back to a lot of other topics that we've talked about on the show. Trying not to be a problem character, having issues, working and role-playing with everybody else. And I think, when I define my character and I build my character, these are just things I want to keep in mind. I made a ridiculous drunk dwarf in Joe's game. I did. He's a drunken bard. He's all about getting drunk and with booze. But very quickly we established him, we're in this town. He is a noble that works in the town, but I basically said, about him, he's not dysfunctional. He basically tries to get as much work done that he doesn't gain any prestige, but he doesn't get in trouble. So it's sort of like, I got my work done I need for the day. Drinking time, that kind of thing,
He pulls enough weight.
Yeah. And that also helps for establishing when we get into the team that I work better with the team because I'm not going to necessarily, I'm going to want to get drunk, but I'm going to at least pull my weight,
Yeah. I mean, and there's also it's kind of fun too how a character can progress, because that's the thing. The character I'm making for your upcoming game. Literally, my concept when I first started was I just wanted to look into Pathfinder and went, how much dragon can I shove into one character?
Yeah.
That's basically my kernel concept. It's expanded a lot since then, and now parts of it don't really have a lot to do with dragon, but that was the original thought when I went in to build this character.
Which is fine. There's a surprisingly large amount of dragon that can be put into a character.
I was very surprised. I know there's some. I always knew there was some, but it was actually something like when I played Pathfinder years ago, I felt like it was all, yeah, there was Wyvern, but most GMs don't allow it. Thank you for allowing that.
Again, there was the concern
it's that broken.
There was a concern about flying that people were talking about, but I'm like, flying in most of the time is not an issue. And I'm like, it's travel. And it's traversing and stuff. And it's like, oh, I can get up to a second floor and not have to make checks. That's the kind of place where I've been in to a degree for this. It's sort of like, I did consider it pretty well. And it might become more important in later adventures. But certainly already reading the first adventure, it's not like flying would detract from your ability to do certain things at all. I can kind of say. There
is another thing that makes flying not as great as it sounds, and that is falling.
Yeah.
If you can put I'm immune to that's actually the one nice thing is I'm immune to magical sleep and paralysis because I have a dragon typing. But there are still other ways to freeze me, probably. And if that happens...
I haven't read on anything in the first adventure that has sleep or paralysis coming up yet. And honestly, sleep usually disappears from low level. Paralysis is the only thing that comes up. And it might. Yeah. I can't say that it won't.
But falling is the most dangerous part of having a flying character. So there's very much there actually is a very big risk to move along with it. Because if you're too high and you somehow get knocked out or stunned or something, you can take a lot of damage very quickly.
And the fact is, you are a clumsy flyer.
I did take the one that gives up my tail attack and dark vision to get average flight.
Ah. That is better than you at least have a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because clumsy, it's very hard to deal with that with flying. Average still has some issues. It's not good. But...
No, well, average is 0. Plus 0.
Yeah. What I mean is that there's certain maneuvers that are easier to do that you need a better flying because.
Yeah, I mean that's the one annoying thing about flight in Pathfinder is doing anything that's not just flying forward requires a check, which is really annoying.
I'll limit it to checks that make sense. I've got to be honest. It's stuff like that. As long as you're there's plenty of places to.
Yeah. Okay. Checks in combat or in tight situations make sense. Out of combat, you should be able to do a lot without having to roll.
The thing is, I think that's another thing that I'm going to try to concentrate on is not having too many unnecessary checks in the adventure. But again, you have to figure out that kind of balance sometimes. And anyway, these kind of aspects come into that you have a build for a character. And again, I'm going to say something like Pathfinder or some other games, oftentimes 5e is the one that you build for the least, I think.
It's a very much a railroad after you pick your character class and some other things. There's very little
as soon as you have your archetype, you're pretty well done in choices.
That's the word. I called it a subclass earlier. I meant archetype.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same difference. It is the same thing.
You don't understand what I mean.
Yeah. It's basically you make the one choice and then you're like, well, I've made my choice. Now what? Nothing? Well, great.
Yep. So, in some ways, though, that's but that also allows a lot more for other factors. Like the roleplay factors or the social bonuses that you can get by making someone happy or items and stuff. So there are still lots of ways to advance your character, but I actually think it's kind of nice in 5e that a lot of those are done outside of just picking stats. I mean, there's always that weird thing of like, how did I get this? How did I pick up this feat that allows me to fly now? Like a kobold can. Just like, you have wings now. It's all like, where did those come from?
At least like in Pathfinder, when you take something like that, it's like you sprout wings from your back one day. You're like, holy crap! What just happened? When did I get these? Like, you go to sleep and you wake up with them and you're like, dude! Wow! Yeah. I've awakened. But kobolds and Pathfinder also think of themselves as mighty dragons. So it's like, I've awakened my mighty dragon powers! Yeah!
Yeah.
I do love Pathfinder kobolds just for that. They are mighty dragons.
I just love kobolds. Like, they're always like that, and that's actually my favorite part about them. Is they're like, it is the joke that they're weak, but at the same time, it's also like great because they think themselves as so powerful while being so trash.
So, but again, like the idea that I can take that. Not only do I understand where my character's going, what choices are going to make it, you think about your character a lot more, how it might react to the circumstances it's facing. Like, I know what's happened in Joe's game, so I'm already thought about, the next step kind of almost with where my character is building to a degree.
Yeah.
I know that my character will basically almost kind of be with whatever's going on here, be forced to grow up a little bit. I'm probably not going to get away from the bottle completely, but I might actually step up to a better role to kind of like live with that I was put into a position of power because of my family, and now I'm kind of forced to actually be a person that's in that position of power, And I think that's that's the evolution of the character as I've seen it, and also how I have it. And then like in a Pathfinder game, if I'm as a player, I also usually try to think about, well, what's my next feat to think? Because again, first edition Pathfinder and even second edition Degree have a lot of choices. So going ahead of time,
Pathfinder 2e, I very much see it as build your own character. It's just like here's a skeleton, put all the meat on there.
2e's a little better than 1e, I think, because
that's what I mean. That's what I said 2e.
Yeah. Well, like 1e is like, here's a gigantic list. Enjoy navigating that. 2e's here's 4 individual lists. At this level, you get to look at this list. Okay, there's much fewer choices on here. It's a lot less daunting,
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I'm curious. How many feats are there? A way to count?
Oh, in first edition, there are so many different subcategories of feats too, because it's sort of like there's general feats, combat feats, there's like metamagic feats, and like 5 other types of feats that were introduced. Also, technically, I think monster feats are their own ones too, but they might also be sometimes in the general and. Racial feats, which are their precursor for ancestry feats. Those are actually a thing too. Am I a kobold? Can I take a first edition kobold feat? Sure. I know you're playing a kobold because they shafted in that one, but if you're playing I played a sylph, which is one of the air ganassi in or the air elemental in Pathfinder. I took a bunch of sylph feats. They were racial feats. They were really cool. I liked them. But that was my build. That was when I was doing Skulls and Shackles, because one of the sylphs get fly. And I thought that would have been very useful to fly to another ship. Or to see through things like fog and stuff. That was the idea. Anyway. But yeah, you take a look, you understand where your character is building towards in general. You know your choices you're going to be taking. And even 5th edition, that can come up of like, when I level up, I'm going to be gaining spells for this level, or these number of spells. You can take a look ahead of time and be like, what spells do I want to choose? Now, granted, things change in the game, and you can change your choice. But that's an okay thing to do, is to go back and change your choice as the game is going. It's just usually doing a character build and thinking about it ahead of time, at least for the mechanical side of things, is to give you an idea and to make it streamlined for character choices. you know?
Yep.
And again, sometimes you get something that vastly changes where you'd be going, but that's okay. And
I think sometimes it's fun, even if what you're going to do is suboptimal, because it fits the character concept you're going for, which is something important to also consider.
Yes. But again, I think it's very easy to look at that, but there is a caveat in it. There's one caveat I'm going to give to that one, because it's an important one, is don't make your character not work, even if you're doing suboptimal.
That is also... Yeah. That is very true. Yeah, I usually think that, like, you want to be...
The best example of being suboptimal to the worst is, sorry, Lightning, I'm going to throw you under the bus again, Lynn. No. Lynn, to a degree, and Anne, from when I played Carrying Crown. Lynn and Anne were both suboptimal in certain ways to the detriment of those characters and the game. We corrected that, but it already caused damage to it. Lynn was a dex-based dragon. No, not even dex-based. A spellcasting-based dragon oracle. Dragon oracles are melee oracles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
no
see the
strength,
problem there.
No strength, and not even dexterity to go weapon finesse kind of route.
Yeah. Okay, I see the problem there. At least I'm being kind of more of like a frontlining shifter.
The thing is,
even if
you're going by... Shifter says front line, so you're sticking with front line and understanding to build in that, regardless if it's unoptimal. The other thing was, the Armor Magus build is a very hard build to make right. And Anne was a character that dove into that, and it's a suboptimal Magus build. And just having an average Magus build with a suboptimal build made it not work very well. Basically, you'd have to make a very, very good Magus build to make the Armored Magus work. Or a very unique build. You can't go average for that. So that was another problem that we saw. So those were like two big flags for what you can do. It's those characters, and again, I recognized at that point in time, it was not only an unfamiliarity with the Pathfinder system, it's like, it was me being rusty, because I'd been away for like 4 years, 3 or 4 years, coming back to it and being like, oh wait, we have to like do some things to fix these shit. Oh, that's right. I didn't.
Yeah. No,
I didn't catch things. I mean, there were other issues that I didn't catch, and like, I should have basically had Lynn speak common, and I didn't, which there was a communication issue, which means, unfortunately, that in the character building, the character couldn't develop because no one could talk to the character. That's an issue.
Okay, wait, you had a character not speaking common at the beginning of the game?
They spoke Elven, which 2 of the characters could speak in a, I think it was originally we were 6 character group. We did lose 2 early on and went down to 4, but it was basically like 2 characters could... I think it was only one of them spoke Elven. So one could communicate with the other and translate to them after everything is done. But they couldn't understand any of the other conversations. Deep, meaningful conversations! They also showed up in high heels and a wetsuit.
In a medieval game? In a fantasy game?
They are in the clothing list, is basically like a spiked boot kind of thing, and also it's like a hiking kind of boot really, but it's like a high heel boot almost, like it's a raised boot. But also they have like a like, it is much an old timey wetsuit, but it is a wetsuit.
Got it. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's not a very good one. It's more like a rubber suit kind of thing. So it was a very unusual introduction to a character who didn't understand why some people were hostile to them at the beginning of the game because of they were superstitious idiots. And, started things off on such a bad front. And I'm like, I should have just had you speak common, but I went for authenticity because they were technically from an area where the common language was different, and I didn't also do as much research because I could have also they could have traveled. No language.
I mean,
they could have been places. They could have been places where they would have learned the common language.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's like broken common, like that's the thing is, I put a point for my character. I'm starting with a point in the language skill, so I can speak the language of my adopted parents, basically. And it's all like, I'm like, this makes sense, and it might be useful in the future.
Yeah, you understood that it might be a good idea for you to learn the Shawanti language, because that's probably... Yep. Granted, they probably could speak common, but there's probably plenty of people in the tribe that there might be people in the tribe that aren't as good at it or something, so it might be better to learn the adopted language. But again, like, it comes down to decisions on both GM and stuff side, and so you do have to kind of work with your GM and like, a little bit here.
I do like the game. Like, that's the thing. Another thing about characters, working with your GM and working with fellow players. I actually like, for this game coming up, the Crimson Throne, like, I like that we are all, like, getting together a few times. It's not just, like, one session zero, it's, like, multiple. To, like, really build up everything.
Yes, there's been, like, discussions on where the characters have come from, some very loose connections that you have between you that kind of make sense, so it's sort of like, it's a big city, but it's also not necessarily a big city, sometimes. And there are some, like, important players and some important places that you might know about and some, like, connections that are very interesting there. Like, certainly, like, characters connected to, like, spellcasting schools. You and Joe's connections with Shawanti people, which actually does come up in the adventure and stuff, too, which I might have to, like... There's more information as I've been reading that comes up that might be good to let you know about. Yeah. But again, it's, like... It's more
That's why I decided to do it this way. Like, I was originally just going to be my character, like other things before I even found out. This is before I even knew about the background traits or the campaign. What are they called?
Campaign traits.
Yeah, the campaign traits. Yeah, before that, I was all like, how am I gonna do this? But now, then it's all like, I looked into it, and I'm like, okay, there are these people. Like, the player's guide thing, the link that was posted to by Cell. Basically, I'm like, oh, okay, it does say that there will be Shawanti interaction later in the in the third and fourth adventure, I think. So I'm like, maybe I could do something with that. So that's kind of fun. I actually like that kind of background for a game. It's kind of nice to have, because not every game gets it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a very interesting, situation in a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting to just kind of dive into it a lot more. It's been fun developing. But again, that's helped building characters more than just, here's some stats, and you need to get to at least a point in time where you feel like, I think what you want to do is get a character built to such a way that you almost are writing a story that involves your character or something. Like, if you would write the book of your story, you need to know what they can do and when they can do it, when they learn new abilities. But you also have to know how they develop as a honest character to a degree, And again, as you write the story longer and add more stuff to it, you might change some of your ideas, evolve some of your ideas. But you're always going to be working with a kind of general outline of where things are going. You've written the outline. You just have to fill in the blanks as we adventure together.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
and it's fun though. Yeah, it's fun to like kind of build a character. And also because that's the thing. I think it's very hard to. So I've heard the term. I think it's planners and pantsers when it comes to creative writing. I think for RPGs it is very so the idea is a pantsers fly by the seat of their pants. Basically, they'll build a character and let the character grow as they run into things. Then there are planners who actually plan that out. But I think for RPGs, it's good to at least do some planning, But also, actually, I think you almost need both. You really need both, because it's like, I don't know where the adventure is going, so I don't know how my character is going to develop. I mean, it'll develop very differently if this, like in the background trait I picked was my sibling was taken. So it'll develop very differently if my sibling is dead versus if they're alive,
Yes.
So, like, there's stuff like that where it's like, okay, I can't plan for that. But also, I can plan around some other things, so...
Mm-hmm. So, there's certainly places you can go with the information that you know and the way you build your character. Usually, again, me providing as the person in charge, a little bit of setup, a little bit of information to help you make those decisions and to understand where things are going.
Yeah.
That's character building. It's an important part of your game. Keep it in mind. All right, cool. I think that was a pretty good way of handling that little bit of stuff there. To kind of combine some of the old topics and add a little bit of new stuff in. That was a good one of doing that. All right, I think that leaves us at it for today. I think that's a good place to stop because we've gone over everything. Let me give a shout out to you, Worm. What's your schedule?
Yes, so I will be streaming tomorrow at 10 a.m. PST, 10:30 a.m. PST, which is 1:30 EST. So we're more in tune with Tantus' schedule.
Yes.
Yeah, probably just Baldur's Gate. I really need to play the Warframe just coming out with a new update, and I really need to play that, but I don't know. I'm also really into Baldur's Gate.
I will probably do a stream either tomorrow afternoon or maybe midday or something, my time, just because Momo's only free like 2 more times, and we're going to get some more Resident Evil 5 in, so we'll play like probably enough time that either we will finish it or get to a point in time that the next time we play, which I think is Friday we can finish it then. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when tomorrow. I have to figure out the final schedule and stuff. Things like that. But I might just do it like kind of where I do normally my schedule. So like 11 o'clock my time. I would stream for like 2 or 3 hours. So. But it's a bonus stream tomorrow. Finishing the RE1 randomizer on Monday, then doing something else. Don't know the rest of the schedule other than having Friday open for doing more RE5. If you want to see more tabletop stuff, check out my tabletop topics, which I do deep dives in tabletop. If you haven't seen one of them, they're fun. The plan for this
they're usually pretty fun.
Yeah.
I can attest. I'm usually there when they're live.
Yeah. I dive into topics and I try to not only provide enough information with a combination of, it's actually pretty good. You can usually find some good basic wiki articles, but I usually combine that with some cursory research on some of the books that I have. But I also provide a list of other books if you want to go deeper into these topics a lot of time. You know, it's like, here's the book I use, but here's like 2 or 3 other books that you can check out if you really want to. And honestly, as I say, I always just wiki for a lot of this. But I go over basic information. This week I missed Tuesday because I was pretty busy this week with doing stuff with my my mother and helping her out and stuff. But on Thursday, I talked about the Galoma, which were an interesting ancestry introduced in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and the Darklands, which is Galarian's version of Underdark, if you're more familiar with 5e. And then earlier today, I talked about the Mockery Breeds, which Worm would know one of them. It was in Legacies of Kain.
Sorry, say that again? What was it?
Remember Legacies of Kain? Remember Ryan?
Yep.
The cockroach?
Oh, the were cockroach, yeah.
He's a Mockery breed. They're basically man-made changing breeds.
Got it. Oh.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that. I came into the game too late to probably know that.
Yeah. Scientists experimented on him and made him into a horrible monster, decided that his creation was a mistake, so left him in a lab. And then, for whatever weird chance, because every other Mockery breed has been ignored by them, one spirit, the cockroach spirit, was like, I'm interested in these things. They're cockroaches. And basically has kind of taken some under the wing. I did expand it a little bit, but they do have in the information that some have managed to escape and, are under the care of... and actually a story suggestion that they give if you're using them is having werewolves come and look after some of them and try to help them because they're the werewolves that deal with cockroach spirit. And cockroach spirit's like, so I adopted them. Can you look after them in the real world? They're a little messed up, but it was fun to talk about. And I've got some interesting, more spooky-ish related topics for the rest of the month, so, you can check them out. Tuesdays, Thursdays, usually are between 1 and 2 in the afternoon I get started, and then on Saturday is around 11 o'clock, because I really have to have it very close to 11. Because, like, today, I took my niece to her gymnastics, meaning I had to be ready for that. And that was tough. I had scheduled. So, and then we'll be back on Wednesdays. Right now, The 1st of November is the plan for Wednesdays to return. Getting back into one of the first nature games. So I'm looking into maybe doing a Halloween thing. If I can figure it out by this Tuesday, I'll put together a Halloween thing on that day. So I'm going to try to put it together by then. It's not a lot of days. If I can at least get the basics ready, I can do some more work on the interim. But also, because I have a game that I'm actually planning for also the next day, it makes it a little easy to plan for both of them. I'll figure it out, maybe. Anything else to shout out? I think that's it. I have a Discord and Twitter.com. Link below in all the descriptions. Check those out. And, yeah. Thank you for joining me today, Worm.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everybody has a great rest of your Saturday, great rest of your weekend. Check us all out for all of our different things. And I'll say, to the next time, for all of you, farewell, everybody, and have a good one.
Bye.
Goodbye.